So exciting. Ooh, that's new.
I know. It told me that we were going to go live. And I'm like, what? That's weird.
I have to consent. I consent. Okay. For once, it actually told me that we're live when we're live. This is fantastic. Okay. I'm going to give it just a moment so that it pops up and that people find it, or if they scroll by and they see it and they're interested and they watch. That's what we want. Okay, so hello, welcome to Escondido Public Library Virtual Author Chat Series. This episode is in partnership with Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore. I'm one of your hosts, Jessica Buck.
Oh, that was a funny voice. I don't know why. I don't know. It sounded funny.
I was trying to say it slowly.
And I'm Kathy Genovese, Teen Services Librarian. Our authors for this chat are Laekan Zea Kemp and Laura Taylor Namey. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you.
That's my horn, yeah. You can order and pre-order books by both authors from Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore. Links are in the chat description. If you have any questions for the authors, please feel free to add those to the comments, and we will get to those as soon as we can. So let's get to our first question. Let's see. Tell us about you, yourself, and your journey to become a writer.
Who's going first? You're gonna have to call on us like school. No.
Well, then Laura, you get to go first.
Oh goodness, did I just volunteer myself? Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Hi, I'm Laura. Yes, I've been writing probably for about 7 years, 8 years, and yeah, I started writing when my kids were in school, a little more independent, and I didn't have to spend quite so much time helping them with homework. And at that time, a lot of people were reading tons of YA novels. It was kind of the Divergent Twilight era. And I decided I really wanted to try that. So I gave it a go and wrote a novel. And I taught myself how to write by writing one. And it didn't go very far, which is good. And no one has seen it. It's in a drawer. But it got close enough that I started then taking some classes and teaching myself and actually getting some skills and learning how to write a novel. And I wrote another novel, and that ended up being my debut, Library of Lost Things, a few years later. So and I haven't stopped since 2019. So yeah, that's me.
So I have always loved to write. I think I won my first writing contest in like 6th grade. And from that point on, it just remained like this constant in my life, something that I was always good at, something that I really enjoyed doing, and also something that gave me a lot of confidence when I wasn't necessarily gaining that confidence in like other areas of academics. I do remember that when they finally added a creative writing class to the master schedule in my high school, it was invitation only and I was not invited. And that, yes, that really stung, especially since I wasn't even allowed to submit a writing sample. It was basically just whoever the teacher already knew and whoever she wanted in her class was who could take it. But I feel like it definitely lit a fire under me, and I ended up attempting my first novel during my senior year of high school. Then I went on to major in creative writing. After graduating, I started self-publishing my work, actually, because I was seeing that lots of authors, especially lots of authors of color, and particularly in the romance space, were finding a lot of success. So I self-published a paranormal romance series that ended up gaining an audience, which was super exciting. But the dream of seeing my books in an actual bookstore was something I just could never really let go of. So in 2018, I gave myself sort of a timeline and really committed to polishing up the manuscript that I was currently working on. And I ended up finding an agent through a Twitter pitch contest called DV Pit. And then a month later, we sold my debut, Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, in a 2-book deal.
And speaking of your books, tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, our new ones, or
Yes.
all of them, or
all of them, new ones, all of them.
Oh,
like, this is your time.
I'll do my, okay. let me grab that. Okay, my new one is coming out November 2nd, 2021. This is my first friendship-centered book, where friendship is the main relationship. There's romance in there because it's me, but anyway, but it's mainly friendship themed. When We Were Them is about three girls who are lifetime friends, and one memory box and one act of betrayal that comes out the week of graduation. And so it's told in two timelines, one where they're trying to reconcile this betrayal, and the other timeline is all 4 years of high school leading up to this betrayal and tragedy and all these things these girls have been through. And the main question is, can this friendship survive what has happened? Is what they were strong enough to survive what they become? And yeah, I really am happy to bring this out into the world. And yeah, my book last year is A Cuban Girl's Guide to Teen Tomorrow, which you can still get at Mysterious Galaxy and all indie bookstores. And I'm having a lot of fun still with that one. Being in Reese's book club with that, doing a lot of fun things. And you know, it's been so fun to bring that into the world, and just being with readers and watching them make fan art and do all kinds of fun things every day. I wake up to something. So thank you, readers, for being so supportive. Yeah. Laekan?
So this is the book I mentioned earlier, my debut novel from Little Brown Young Readers. It came out in April of this year. I like to say that I have three objectives when it comes to storytelling: to make people laugh, cry, and crave Mexican food. In my work, I really try to celebrate Chicana grit, resilience, creativity, and joy while exploring themes of identity and mental health. So I draw a lot on my cultural background. I draw a lot on personal experiences. My teen years were not great. They were really, really difficult, which is why I'm so drawn to writing YA, because those memories are just still so fresh. So there's a lot of me in Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, as well as the companion novel, Heartbreak Symphony, which is available for pre-order now. But really in everything that I write, there's a lot of me. Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet follows Penn, who is an aspiring pastry chef who dreams of continuing her father's cooking legacy despite her parents having different plans. And Xander is the other protagonist, and he is living undocumented with his abuelo, both of them estranged from Xander's father, who he is desperate to find. When Xander starts working at Penn's family restaurant, their worlds collide, but when both the restaurant and Xander's immigrant status are threatened, he and Penn must work together to save the place they both call home. And then Heartbreak Symphony takes place in the same neighborhood with some familiar secondary characters. It's about two aspiring musicians trying to get into their dream school while also grappling with grief and heartbreak over the loss of their parents, which is an experience that really bonds them. And of course, it's another dual point of view romance about figuring out where you fit in the world, and also how to use your gifts to serve your community, which was also explored a lot in Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet.
And you can buy it from Mysterious Galaxy.
Okay, let's see. So, ladies, what Laekan, you touched on this a little bit, but what inspired you to write these particular stories, each of your most recent books? What were the challenges that you faced in bringing them to life?
Just like Laekan, I'm Cuban American. My mother was born in Cuba and was an immigrant just before Castro's regime, and when she was very young. And just it's a lot of what I do is to honor my family and my legacy, and all of the things, the food, the growing up Cuban American, and everything that I saw and tasted and learned about. I like to incorporate that feeling, that backbone, and that heartbeat into all of my stories. There's always some kind of Cuban rep, whether I'm writing full on, a Cuban American in a Miami Cuban who has all these adventures, or in When We Were Them, the main character is not Cuban, but one of the two very a big Cuban family is in here and extremely prominent and right there. So I take my rep and I write it in different ways, and I sprinkle it or backbone it or add it in some way, but it's all me. Just like Laekan was saying, that really resonated with me too, because everything I put in my books comes from something that I've felt or that I'm interested in exploring. And I take that, try to meld it with my own experience, my own cultural norms, things I want to explore in my culture or challenge. And I like to pair that with Laekan was saying, what she wants to do. I like to make people feel when they read my stories, to feel something that when you close the book, you're left experiencing an emotion or more than one, usually at a time, but just to think that I brought you in an escapist journey to where you felt and it mattered to you. So long story short.
So the initial inspiration for Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet was really the years that my partner spent working in a restaurant, and just all of the hilarious stories that he would tell me about all of the trouble they would get up to. And at this time, we were both teenagers. That's when he was working there. So the setting of the restaurant is the thing that I sort of conceptualized first, because I just wanted to explore those dynamics of working in a restaurant and what it's like to form community in that kind of space where you have people from all different backgrounds and usually very diverse in age as well. And then food is just a great vehicle for exploring so many other things like family legacy and creativity, and in Penn's case, mental health. It's a great metaphor for ancestry and love and what it means to belong to a particular community. So it was really the perfect tool to explore Penn's complicated relationship with her father, who does not want her following in his footsteps, her relationships with herself and her body, and how she cares for it, even on the worst mental health days. And it also became a way for her to take care of her community as they were dealing with gentrification and a predatory loan shark who had been preying on the neighborhood for years. I think the challenges in bringing the story to life mostly had to do with me needing to research and reclaim some of those cultural practices for myself before I could write about them in an authentic way. I'm fourth generation, and so my family is very assimilated. But it also, throughout that assimilation process, like a lot gets lost. Things I've had to go and search for as an adult, and it's a very emotional process. It can sometimes also be very shame-inducing. So it wasn't easy, and I'm still in the midst of it. I'm still adding traditional recipes to my repertoire. I'm still learning about values and rituals and traditions that have been lost for generations. I'm still working on, my Spanish. So it's a lifelong journey that I'm on, but it's worth it to know that maybe future generations of my family will have that connection to our roots restored in a way, and be able to safeguard those traditions for generations to come.
Love that. And because you both mentioned food, I'm going to pop in a question really quick of what's like your favorite recipe?
Cuban recipe? Okay, it's so cliche. Like it's gonna be like, oh my gosh. There is something about my mother's arroz con pollo, which is just chicken and rice. Actually, Lila makes fun of anyone who says that in the book because she's like, it's so not just chicken and rice, but that is a staple, and it's so almost memed in Cuban culture as being everything that the abuela makes is, arroz con pollo. But it's the memory of my mother or my tias making that, or watching them when I was little, making that in the kitchen. It was just a regular thing she made, but it was just like, it just tastes like home. And it's the saffron yellow rice with all the spices. And that is definitely a huge one for me that just reminds me of being a Cuban girl growing up with a Cuban mother. But like, if my favorite thing to order in a Cuban joint is the Cubano sandwich. And I love that sandwich so much that I wrote an entire chapter in the Cuban Girl's Guide about a single sandwich. And they actually let me get away with this. And I had to have so many of these. My husband would go out and do a Cubano sandwich run from Azucar. I'm plugging this in San Diego. They're excellent there. And also Portos in Southern California, prime. They would have to go there and get them for me because I was writing about them and revising so much that I needed to eat them. So yeah, Cuban food is delicious, and I love. There's a lot of food in Cuban Girl, and in when we were them as well. A lot of San Diego local foods, but yeah, those are mine. And I love all the food in Laekan's book too. That made me really hungry because I love Mexican food.
And I have recipes on my website for many of the dishes that are in my book. One of them, I actually have a video tutorial, and it's for a combination of my grandmother's and my aunt's menudo, because they both make it a little differently, and there's things, you know, I like about each of them. So there's a tutorial for that. I ate that a lot growing up. Anytime the family got together, that's what we would eat. But I think my favorite, just like really simple snack, is just like a warm tortilla with butter. You fold it in half and then you fold it again, so it makes like a little triangle, and that's how you keep the butter from, you know, dripping out. It's just delicious.
I've never tried that.
They adding it right, the white ones, the
Yes,
white
the
tortillas.
flour
Yeah,
tortillas.
the
Mhm.
flour. That's what I meant. White.
Yes.
I'm out of words today. When you've been drafting all morning, it's like, what are words? The white tortillas, the flour. Yeah,
Yes,
those are
flour
so
tortillas.
good.
Mhm.
In San Diego, we can get those. You can go to like a little shop and they'll just sell them to you like that, wrapped in a paper with, so good. Just right off the, then when they're, you know, oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah, we have HEBs here in Texas, which they actually have really great Mexican food at HEB. And so you can buy the tortillas semi-made, like they, you know, they've rolled them out, and they've heated them up a little bit, but you bring them home and they're still a little raw. And so you do have to cook them on the comal, but you take them off, put them on a plate, drop, you know, a square of butter, just let it melt, spread it around, and then, like I said, the folding technique, and then eat it
Or
and enjoy.
Avocado is so good on like that too, just like a slice of avocado. Is it dinner time yet? Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm hungry.
Is it snack time? It always happens when you write a food book. Yeah.
So one of our viewers, Tiffany, says the Cubano sandwich is so delicious. I need to try this.
It is. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain. It's pan cubano, which is French bread with lard, because the pork fat is in everything that we make pretty much. So if you don't like anything with pork products, Cuban food, most of it is not for you. There are some things, catch me later, message me, but pork fat is in everything. So it's that. And so that bread lasts like exactly one day. And they would use the day old bread and griddle it with pork shoulder and ham and like a mustard mayo hybrid, pickles, cheese, like melted cheese, and kind of like, it's kind of like a panini where you griddle that and it gets really crunchy and it's so good. So it's not for our vegan friends or vegetarian friends. But yeah, again, it's all about the pork and Cuban food, but it's a delicious treat. That is.
I'm just getting hungry. This is like now a cooking
Yeah,
show.
I want
Like-
one now. My son to go get more. Go get me food.
Go give me food. So it's ready when I'm done.
Yeah.
Really quick, I'm just gonna check Facebook. So Tiffany, thank you for watching, and DJ, thank you for watching. Everyone else,
Hey.
everyone else is watching. I don't know your names because you haven't commented yet, but thank you for watching too. And we hope that you ask some questions. If you have any questions for the authors, you can just plop those right in the comments. And our next question is about your writing process. So what is it? Are you someone that can write anywhere? Do you have to have your specific kind of environment? Do you have any rituals that you need to do every time? Or are you just anywhere and anytime? Inspiration hits and you write.
Laekan, why don't you go first on this one?
I think so. I should preface this by saying I used to be a teacher and worked really long hours, worked a lot on the weekend. And so back then it was a lot easier for me to sort of hop in and out of the writing and be able to do it anywhere. Since the pandemic, I find that I need like a few more creature comforts to kind of get me going. So I think lighting is what's most key for me right now. For the most part, I can write on the couch, at a desk, sometimes at the kitchen table, but I really need like low lighting. Like I need to feel cozy and relaxed and not like this sense of urgency to get the words down. And there's just something about having like a single lamp shining over my workspace that sort of triggers my brain to say, okay, now it's time to create. When it comes to the actual writing, though, I'm what you would call a headlights writer, meaning I only outline a few chapters ahead at a time. For me, the drafting process is all about discovery. So I need to continuously be surprised by things as I go. That's sort of what keeps it interesting for me. So I don't make a full outline before I start writing. Also, I tend to write in chapter order, which is usually also chronological order for me. I can't hop around from scene to scene. I can sort of only write straight through.
That's exactly what I do. It's almost like she's describing my process too. If I'm writing from proposal, you kind of have to have a synopsis. So you need to know your beginning, middle, and end, and give your publisher an idea of what you're doing, so they buy it before they actually have seen the finished product. So that's different than just coming up with an idea sometimes and just going. I'm very similar to Laekan. I call myself a plantser. So I will kind of, I'll plot out the basic big beat points. So the climax of the book, the major reversals, whatever. And I know what happens on that very last scene, but I don't always know those bridges that get from one point to another. And I love that what Laekan was talking about discovery. I think some of my favorite personal things that I've created come from those discovery moments and not necessarily from the things I know I came into that chapter knowing were going to happen or had to happen to get me to the next part of the story. And I generally prefer revision and editing a lot more than drafting. And again, drafting is me overwriting greatly and then carving out the story afterward from what I've created. And then I start really writing. And revision for me is where I polish voice and character and all of the little elements and symbolic things that I like to throw in my books. I really tool those and I get rid of stuff and I end up cutting, could be between 10 to 20,000 words just to get rid of it and really hone and shape that story. And I enjoy that time. I really enjoy having written more than I do drafting, unless you get a high of those drafting days when you've written something and you're proud of it. And a lot of it comes through that discovery process. And I do love that a lot. I love being in my books, but I really like knowing that it's done and then going back in after some cognitive distance, going back in and just shaping like a potter's wheel. And I feel like anything that you've read of mine, that has happened for months and months to where I spend many, many hours on a single paragraph or whatever. And I enjoy that. And I'm kind of a cocoon writer like Laekan too. I wrote Library of Lost Things when my daughter was still in elementary school, coming out of like 6th grade, and I would have to be at the jump gym or cheer practice or the soccer field. I wrote some of that on the airplane coming back from Florida. I wrote it on, hotel balcony, in the back of the car waiting for some practice. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles wrote that book. It's not my favorite. I like to be home alone with a dog and a quilt and like 3 hot drinks and a bunch of salty snacks from Trader Joe's. That's my favorite. Right. And just being able to be alone. Now I'm writing full time. My kids are older, they have cars, and I'm enjoying my writing so much because I can get a full day of quite uninterrupted sort of quiet, and I can create, and I find that I'm actually getting more work done. Imagine, I know. So yeah, but I am in that. What we're talking about right now is I'm in the middle of it. I'm drafting secret stuff right now, working full time, and yeah, lots of drinks, coffee cups, and there's a pile at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Ooh.
We have a Facebook.
Yes, Christina has asked us, or you, do you have a playlist for your book or specific music that you listen to while writing the book?
Laekan?
So I'm sort of boring. I tend to write in silence. Every once in a while, I'll do sort of like, can't remember what those websites are called, sort of where you can create your own noise machine or your own background noise and There's one website that I really like where it'll let you create a mix of sounds, and you can choose like rain or waves crashing or like the wind, blowing. So sometimes I'll have those kinds of sounds in the background. But for somewhere between bitter and sweet, there is actually an instrumental soundtrack that you can download on my website. Some of the music is featured in the audiobook as well. So if you are a music person, and especially if you want to listen to something while you read the book that was created for the book and to match sort of the mood of the story, and to represent certain characters in the book, I think it's a really fun thing to have access to. There's no lyrics, like nobody's singing anything. It's strictly instrumental. So I think it's a nice thing to pair with while you read.
One of the first things I do when I come up with a draft and a story is make a Spotify playlist, because I'm really connected to music. I'm a musician. I play piano and I'm a vocalist, and I'm connected. A lot of what makes me a musician helps me to be a writer. And so those two fields and things that I enjoy are very much married. So I think in terms of music before I think in terms of words, and especially character. I pick songs that embody the feeling of my character and the emotion I want them to portray or embody. And a lot of the times I'll just make this huge playlist and I play it when I'm walking, and that kind of fuels my creativity. And when I get home, they stick with me, and I use those things. And I always publish my playlists on Spotify. You can find them. You can always DM me, and I'll send you a link. Cuban Girl has a big playlist. Library of Lost Things on Spotify has, if you type in the title, you can find the playlist that actually feel what the book sounds like to me. And I usually it's kind of a mess. So I'll add things as I go, but by the end, when the book comes out, I will cull that playlist and get rid of some things, and I move it around. So when you're the beginning of the playlist is like what the beginning of the book feels like, or what's happening. And if there's a breakup or a big fight, there's like an Olivia Rodrigo moment happening maybe there. And then there might be something, there's some Taylor Swift usually, or some whatever, is going on there. But it really does mirror the story arc, the song. So the end, if there's a happy ending, it'll end with like something happy. In the middle of tragedy, there's a lot of hosure. So yeah, love it. But no, when I'm actually writing, very rarely do I have music going. Just sometimes I feel kind of dead, my creativity, and I'll put it on really softly, and it'll kind of get my words flowing, and I'll turn it off. When I'm editing or revising, though, I can have it on just a little more. That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. Was it Tiffany? No, Christina. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah,
because I'm staring. We have more questions, but
okay.
We'll get to those.
Okay, so let's see. Back to our next regular question. You both write for a young adult audience. What draws you to stories for these ages as opposed to adults or middle grade even?
Me again?
Yeah, I think we switched.
Okay.
Now I'll go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So like I mentioned before, my own teen years were really difficult, and I feel like I'm still processing those experiences that I had at that age. So writing in a teen voice feels very natural to me. I also just have so much love and admiration for teenagers. I was a high school ESL teacher for several years, and I loved spending all day, every day with teenagers, just listening to how they think, their sense of humor, their sense of right and wrong. They're incredibly profound and wise and hilarious. And so I just really love writing stories for them.
Yeah, I do too. I have two teenagers, and so that means their friends are my second, third, and fourth children. I love when these kids are at my house. I love them so much, and just being around them. I love their energy and their love for one another, and watching them be in friendships inspires me to write, and watching them tackle adversity in so many ways, especially now that I've seen my own children go through, and inspires me to write stories where bad things happen to teens, because that's the world. And how do we weather those things, and how do we find hope? And yeah, I have not, I think Laekan does middle grade. I have not done middle grade. I would be interested in writing adult at some point. Middle grade, you never know. We always say that we don't like to put boundaries on ourselves. I think sometimes something will just pop up and it's the right time to do something and you follow it. And so I'm never really to say like ready to say I'll never write a picture book or I'll never write for middle grade readers. Nope, I will do whatever comes to me and whatever works.
So as you mentioned, Laura, Laekan does also write middle grade books. Laekan, do you have a favorite age group that you like to write for? I mean, it sounds like teens you really, really love. So
it depends. You know, the middle grade novel, my middle grade debut, I wrote during the height of the pandemic, and it was my happy place. That's how I keep referring to it, because my teen books do tend to be pretty heavy, because like I keep saying, my own teen years were, and so that's what I'm writing about when I write for that age group. But my middle grade books, just at least so far, they have this lightness to them and this magic to them that is really healing and really nourishing. So I feel like it just depends on what I'm needing at that time. So right now, I recently turned in a new young adult novel, and I'm kind of in that space where I'm thinking about what I want to start next. And I know I don't have another 80,000 word YA novel in me right now. I just don't have enough energy for it. I need to sort of heal a little bit. And so, you know, going to middle grade, I should be getting an edit letter soon for that middle grade debut. And I feel like that's where I need to be right now. So it just changes, you know, like I said, depending on what I sort of need in that moment.
let's see. And then we had another solo. Let's see. So we had another sub question, Laura, for you, but you had already mentioned it, like thought about writing books for younger ages or adults, and you already touched on that. You don't have to repeat.
Okay. Answer is yes.
And then yeah, there's it. And then in relation to that, one of our Facebook viewers, Tiffany, asked, Laura, would you consider writing a YA fantasy book rather than contemporary fiction? Do you have any ideas for?
Yeah, you know, fantasy, I'm never going to say no. I'm so in awe, and I've read so much good fantasy, and I'm like, I don't think I could do this. But yet I thought years ago that I could never write a full-length book. I was trained in poetry and short form fiction, short stories, poems, very small, digestible bits of wordage. So I'm like, I can never write a novel. And here I'm writing my fifth right now. So we can. Yes, if I get a really cool fantasy idea, I will write a fantasy book. Yeah, and if someone has an idea for me, shoot it. You know, you never know. But yeah, there is so much. I like world building. There's so much world building that I'm, you know, doing. I think I'd like to explore something. Maybe I'll do something with a spec element or magical element first and try that. I do have some ideas for some future projects with that, but yeah, you know, if it happens, I will try. I'm comfortable in contemporary, even though I try to stretch myself. I feel like I can navigate that, and fantasy is just a whole different point of view, and with a whole different set of things you need to do, and who knows, maybe I'll get that itch and the right story.
Tiffany says, yay.
Okay, Tiffany, I know. Thank you.
So our next question, before writing full-time, you both worked in education. I think you both kind of mentioned that already. Do you think your jobs as teachers influenced your writing or the stories that you tell?
For me, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned earlier my teaching experience, and it comes up a lot, like as I've been, you know, promoting this book and talking about it, because my students had such a huge impact, I think, on the kind of storyteller that I choose to be. like I mentioned before, I was an ESL teacher. And so most of my students were from Central and South America. And obviously, we bonded over that. We bonded over shared culture. We bonded over being brown in a mostly white school. And suddenly, it wasn't just teenaged me that I was trying to write stories for, or who I was trying to make space for on the shelves. And so it gave my work so much more meaning. And I think it also made me much more thoughtful in terms of the types of characters that I wanted in both the foreground and the background of my stories. One of the reasons that I write in dual point of view is so that I can show more of the diversity that exists, not just within Latinidad, but specifically within my Mexican American, and Chicana communities. And I feel like they really taught me the importance of that. So Xander's character, his journey to the US, the stress and anxiety he lives with on a daily basis, his strength and compassion for others, all of that was inspired by my students. And because my books have two heroes and not just one, I don't just get to tell like my very specific story of being a Chicana Tejana in Texas, but I also get to tell the stories of other people in my community, my students, my family members, my friends. And that really means the world to me to be able to do that.
Yeah, I got a degree in teaching and I taught right out of college, but not for very long. So I did not teach as nearly as long as Laekan did. And I taught younger students, third graders, first graders. And then I went on and I was able to stay home and work with my husband when I had my own children. And so I wasn't working for some time other than being a mother, which is probably, I consider it one of the most difficult jobs, and wonderful, but time consuming, difficult, emotionally, everything jobs that you can have. But I do remember how the feeling of bringing a book, and I love to curate. When I was teaching lessons to third graders or even kindergartners, I would curate just this mass of books. If I was teaching about anything, that was the first thing that I would do. And I would fill the front of my room with books that were about what we were learning about so that they can explore them. And I'll never forget, the most favorite part of the day was when I wasn't teaching, but when I was just reading aloud to them. And they would sit there just mesmerized. And I would read a novel after lunch and they wouldn't want me to stop. And they're like, no, one more page, 2 more pages, 5 more minutes. And that feeling is, I think, something that I carried with me. And then reading to my own children, seeing them fall in love with books too, and story time is something that, even though I write for much older kids, I want to bring back that sense of wonder. And I saw, my daughter, I ruined my daughter's life by giving her, when we were them, and I found her at the edge of her bed going, "You're a life ruiner, Mom." And she was reading this and sitting on the edge of her bed with like her one sock on and the other, like, I don't know, and like reading this. And, because like they don't always read my stuff right away, and then they kind of sneak it. So she snuck an arc and she was reading it and she's like, I had to finish it. And just seeing that being so parallel to that, and that feeling, and being able to bring that to teens, that writing something that I don't always want to teach them something, but I want to entertain them, and I want them again to feel and to experience something. And when a teen writes me and they're like, I ignored my history paper because of your book, and thank you, and that this is like the coolest thing you can hear as an author, that you've made a teen just go in and not want to come out. And that feeling is what gets me to the laptop with my quilts and my coffee every single day.
I was getting all teary listening to you guys talk about like everything. It's like, they're so sweet and wonderful.
We love our readers. We love hearing from them. Thank you, everyone who's written us. And
Let's see. Here we are.
Mhm.
So, what books did the two of you read growing up? What were your favorites?
it was a long time ago, you guys. Asking me.
You're always growing.
Okay, this is one thing that I will say that has changed from when I was little, is finding a book with a Cuban girl on the cover. There wasn't one. So I made one. And that's, but I did enjoy reading. I loved like those Babysitter Club books and A Wrinkle in Time. I loved all of that, that kind of thing. And then I kind of, there was a time where I didn't really, YA wasn't as popular when I was a young adult. We just kind of went from those chapter books or whatever, the Wrinkle, the Madeline, those types of things, right to adult. And I was reading John Grisham, and I was reading whatever was, my dad was reading. He was a huge reader, and I would just go on his bookshelf and take crime novels and just start reading whatever. So yeah, it has changed. I think the young adult age group as a whole and genre is so much more diverse and inclusive. And now there is just so much, you can find yourself in a book now so much easier. And it's we still have a long way to go, but it is so much better for teens to be able to find experiences that are enough like theirs to make them feel comfortable and different enough to challenge them.
I was pretty obsessed with the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I think a big reason, which Laura, you touched on a little bit, is because one of the characters was a mixed Latina like me. Mm-hmm. I was always seeking out stories written by Latina authors. And in fact, that's how I discovered my favorite author of all time, sort of by accident, because I thought she was Latina. I mean, truly, the only reason I picked up one of Melina Marqueta's books off the shelf is because when I saw her last name on the cover, my 13-year-old self was like, oh my God, she's Latina. She's not. She's actually Italian. But many of her books explore discrimination faced by the Italian immigrant community in certain parts of Australia. And so the characters and the themes still ended up resonating with me very deeply. But yeah, those are like the two big ones I can remember, just being obsessed with Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and then reading anything and everything by Melina Marqueta.
Oh, I forgot Anne of Green Gables too. There's something about Anne of Green Gables that just was my childhood classic, and I wanted puff sleeve. I have everything because of her. That was a good one. I still like it.
Okie dokie.
You again, Kathy. Over to you.
Oh, I guess you go twice. Look at me. Special. Okay. Are there any books out now or coming out soon that you are excited to read?
Laekan's new one, If I Get the Arc, and this is me on camera begging. I'm just saying. I want Heartbreak Symphony.
On its way. I'm doing a run this week actually, and I'm going to be sending some out.
Okay. Is it Christmas in August? Okay. That yes. What we read so much, it's like, what should we just read? Because we're reading to blurb, we're reading to promote. Our friends are writing books. Here's one of my favorite, my critique partner, Joan F. Smith, who is brilliant. And the Half Orphan's Handbook just came out in April, right when Laekan's, I think you guys were the same week. My goodness, I think it was the same day or something. This book is stunning, beautiful mental health rep, beautiful writing, wonderful storytelling. Can't recommend The Half Orphan's Handbook by Joan F. Smith. More. And same cover artist, if you notice. Sorry, that was me. Just saying, same illustrator. We're both so lucky to get Dion MBD. Thank you, Dion. We love it.
So I don't know if the book is under my desk. I'm trying to feel around for it. So I could show the beautiful cover, but I recently moderated the launch event for Raquel Vasquez Gilliland's new book, How Moon Fuentes Fell in Love with the Universe. And I absolutely loved it. From the first page of that book, I was immediately entranced. Raquel's writing is so stunning, but it's a romance with magical realism, and it includes so many of my favorite things: endless descriptions of the most delicious food, an enemies to lovers romance. There's an ancient family curse, just all the things. It's wonderful.
So besides the books that are coming out now, oh wait, never mind. Where'd it go, Jessica?
So Christina asked what you're reading now, but you guys kind of said what you were reading now. So I took it off the list.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, Kathy.
it's a blur. And sometimes more than one book at a time.
So we are right at the end. So I'm going to go to our last question, and then Kathy will ask our closing question. So thank you to everyone watching, who's watching, and thank you to those who asked questions. So we're going to get to our last question here. This is the question that we always ask at the end of these, and it's our favorite question, or at least it's my favorite question. So what is your favorite library memory?
Oh my goodness. I went to an elementary school that was down the street from the local public library in my little beach town in San Diego. And I think it was, I don't remember, it wasn't every week, but it was at least every month we got to walk off campus, which is a big deal when you're like in second or third grade, and walk all in a line and go to the big library, not the school library that's like a one-room thing, but go to the big library and walk in and take anything that we wanted, bring it back, and we would keep it. And then there would be a library box that you would bring your book in and they would take them back. But I just loved that thrill of being able to walk off. So when you're a second grader or third grader, and I forgot this, like how cool it is to be able to leave school and go to the library and you weren't doing work and you get to pick a book. So all teachers that do that now, that's the best thing you can do.
I spent a lot of time in my elementary school library. I actually lived right across the street from my school. So in the weeks leading up to the first day of school, when teachers were on campus getting their classrooms ready, like I could see the parking lot filling up. And so I would walk to the school and just hang out with my elementary school librarian. Sometimes I would help her shelve books or do some cleaning, like dusting the shelves. And I think that special treatment that I got from her just made me love books even more. And so I can really trace me being an author back to those, afternoons when she would just let me spend time with her.
It's so sweet. I hope that somehow she watches this. Okay, so we are on to our closing question. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Oh my gosh. So basically closing. So what is next for you? What is up on the docket? What can you talk about?
Nothing. We can't
Okay,
talk
then.
about it. No, we can't.
Okay,
No, I'm just kidding.
bye.
I've got I'm drafting stuff that shall be revealed in time. And yeah, and like this one's not out yet. When we were them, comes out November 2nd. So that's really what's next for me, is we're having fun with this one right now. And yes, I'm working hard on more writing. But yeah, I'm really excited about promoting and release month or whatever it is with that. So especially working with Mysterious Galaxy, and thank you. I'm doing my launch there, and they're also handling my pre-order campaign, and I'm ordering really cute swag. If you order from Mysterious Galaxy, I'm happy to write whatever you want in a book within reason, but I will, if you want quotes or you want personal notes, I'm not a very good artist. So if you ask me to draw, I'm not sure what you're going to get, but there's going to be exclusive swag that's just from Mysterious Galaxy that's being created right now from some talented artists on Etsy, and cute things that if you order from them, I'm happy. They're so nice to be able to include those things for me for all of those pre-orders. So pre-order, and I can't wait to dedicate a book for you.
I'm so excited.
Yep.
So I mentioned earlier that the companion novel to Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet is called Heartbreak Symphony, and it comes out in April of 2022. It's actually already available for pre-order. And then I have the middle grade debut that I talked a little bit about coming in the fall of next year. So I've got 2 books coming out next year. And that is a supernatural story about a girl with empathic abilities who comes face to face with the Mexican legend La Lechuza, who is a witch that can turn herself into an owl. And that's all I have so far that's been announced.
Sold.
Right.
One click order. Like,
Right.
don't need to hear anything else.
She said owl. I love, there's an owl in every one of my books. So I'm I need that. Like, it's also need an arc. I'm just saying, I'm really greedy right now. Like, I want everything to just send it off.
So thank you to everyone who's watching with us. Thank you to people who watch this later when it's recorded. Thank you so much to our authors for spending time with us, for giving us your time, for answering the questions. This has just been wonderful. I want to remind everyone that now and later, you can order and pre-order books by the authors from Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore. You can just search their website, or you can follow the link that I have in the description and in the comments. Make it really easy for you just to click and go buy. If you're interested in more free online programs like this, don't forget to check out our Facebook events to see everything that we have planned.
Woohoo! And we hope to see you here on Facebook on Saturday, August 28th at 11 a.m. for our next chat with Brianna Bourne. For that event, when you pre-order your copy through Mysterious Galaxy, you'll get a swag pass. And if you get a chance, please fill out our virtual program survey. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, please fill out the survey. It's only 3 questions. It's really easy. I promise. And thank you again to our authors. This has been wonderful. And everyone, bye, or check out the books from your local library. Okay.
Thank
That's
you
it.
so
We're gonna say
much.
goodbye.
So much fun. Thank you.